Before we get to the story, I'd like to say thanks so much for visiting my new channel. I'm going to be uploading cosmic horror related stories every single day. So if that sounds good, please drop a like and don't forget to subscribe. It means a lot, especially when just getting started. I hope you enjoy the story. I came home from college that summer to find everything exactly the same as I'd left it. Same cracked driveway, same faded blue mailbox that Dad kept saying he'd repaint, same Mrs. Patterson across the street with her garden gnomes lined up like tiny soldiers. Everything was the same, which should have been comforting, but instead just felt boring. My parents had left for Europe the week before, some tour through Italy they'd been planning for years. They asked if I wanted to come, but I said no. I just finished my freshman year at State and honestly just wanted to sleep in my own bed and not think about anything for a while. So there I was, alone in our house in Fairmont, a town so small that the biggest excitement was when they added a subway next to the gas station. The only thing different was the new neighbor. I first saw him on a Tuesday morning. I was mowing the lawn because my dad had texted me like 5 times reminding me to keep up with the yard work. The house next door had been empty since the Kowalskis moved to Florida last year, but now there was a car in the driveway and boxes stacked on the porch. The old man was sitting on his front steps, just watching me. He looked maybe late 70s, with white hair that stuck up in weird directions and these bright blue eyes that seemed too alert for someone his age. He wore suspenders over a white shirt, even though it was probably 80 degrees out. "Hot day for yard work," he called over. I killed the mower engine. "Yeah, but if I don't do it now, I'll just put it off forever." He laughed at that. "I'm Walter Crane. Just moved in yesterday." "Brian," I said. "Brian Foster. Welcome to the neighborhood, I guess. Seems like a nice, quiet place." "That's one way to put it," I said. "Not much happens here." Walter looked up at the sky for a long moment, like really looked at it, squinting against the sun. "Weather's different than I remember," he said. "Since the change." I figured he meant climate change or whatever. Everyone's parents were always talking about how summers used to be cooler when they were kids. "Yeah, it's pretty brutal." But Walter kept staring up there, his expression strange. "Used to be prettier at night," he said quietly. Something about the way he said it made my skin prickle. Not the words themselves, but the tone, like he was mourning something. "Well, let me know if you need help with anything," I said, suddenly wanting to get back to mowing. "Sure thing, Brian. See you around." I started the mower back up, but I could feel him watching me the whole time I finished the lawn. Over the next few days, Walter seemed to always be outside whenever I was. Not in a creepy way exactly, just there, watering his plants, sitting on his porch, walking to his mailbox at the exact same time I walked to ours. He was friendly enough, always waved, always had something to say about the weather or the neighborhood. But the things he said were off somehow. On Thursday, he mentioned how he used to watch The Twilight Zone when he was a kid in the 50s. But then he described an episode I'd never heard of, and I'd watched a lot of Twilight Zone with my dad. I looked it up later. No such episode existed. On Friday, he talked about Kennedy's assassination like everyone else, but said it happened in Dallas in 1964. I didn't correct him. Figured maybe his memory was going. By Saturday, I'd convinced myself that Walter probably had dementia or Alzheimer's or something. My girlfriend Emma's grandmother had it, and she'd talk about things that never happened all the time. It was sad, but it made sense. Walter was old. Old people's brains didn't always work right. That evening, I was sitting on our front porch with a Coke, just scrolling through my phone and enjoying not having to study for once. The sun was setting, painting everything orange and purple. Walter came over without me inviting him, just walked right up and sat down in the other chair like we'd planned it. "Nice evening," he said. "Yeah." We sat there in silence for a while. I didn't really mind. It was actually kind of nice having someone around. The house felt too empty with my parents gone. The moon started to rise, big and yellow on the horizon. "I remember when there were two of them," Walter said. I laughed, thinking he was making a joke. "What, like a double moon?" But Walter didn't laugh. He just kept staring at the moon with the saddest expression I'd ever seen on someone's face. "The second one was smaller," he said. "Greenish color. Real pretty. It moved differently than the regular moon. Faster, I think. Or maybe slower. Hard to remember now." I stopped laughing. "Mr. Crane, I don't—" "It was there every night for years," he continued, like I hadn't spoken. "You could see it best in autumn. It would rise about an hour after the regular moon. Sometimes they'd be in the sky together. That was beautiful. I used to take my wife out to the park just to watch them." That sounds nice," I said, not knowing what else to say. "It went away about 15 years ago," Walter said. "Just stopped appearing one night. I waited for it to come back, but it never did. Nobody seemed to notice it was gone except me." I shifted uncomfortably in my seat. "Maybe you're thinking of something you saw on TV, or a dream." Walter finally looked at me. "You think I'm crazy?" "No, It's okay. I know how it sounds." He stood up slowly, his knees cracking. "I just wish someone else remembered it. Gets lonely being the only one." He went back to his house, and I sat there feeling like a jerk. Obviously, the old man had some kind of mental issue. I should have been more understanding instead of suggesting he'd made it up. I went inside and tried to forget about it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the way Walter had described the second moon, the sadness in his voice, like he'd lost someone he loved. Around 2 in the morning, I gave up and grabbed my laptop. I Googled 2 moons Earth and got a bunch of results about Mars, some stuff about asteroids temporarily orbiting Earth, a few science fiction books. Nothing about a real second moon that people had seen. I tried green moon and got articles about rare atmospheric conditions that can make the moon look greenish. But those were temporary things, not a whole separate moon that stuck around for years. I called Emma the next day. "Your grandma's Alzheimer's," I said, after we'd talked for a few minutes about normal stuff. "Does she ever remember things that didn't happen?" "All the time," Emma said. "Why?" "My new neighbor keeps talking about stuff that seems wrong, like historical dates being different. And last night, he said he remembers when Earth had 2 moons." Emma was quiet for a second. "That's kind of sad." "Yeah. You should probably tell someone, like Adult Protective Services or whatever. If he's living alone and he's that far gone, he might not be safe. Maybe, I said, but I felt weird about the idea of reporting Walter. He seemed fine otherwise, took care of himself, wasn't wandering into traffic or anything. Just think about it, Emma said. I gotta go. Love you. Love you too. I didn't call anyone. Instead, I just tried to avoid Walter for the next day. Stayed inside mostly, even though it was nice out. But Monday morning, he caught me getting the mail. Brian, he waved from his driveway. Got a minute? I thought about pretending I didn't hear him, but that seemed mean. I walked over. I wanted to apologize for the other night, Walter said. I know I sounded nuts, talking about 2 moons. It's okay. It's just hard sometimes, he continued. Remembering things nobody else does makes you feel like you're losing your mind. I'm sure it's just. My daughter used to visit every Sunday, Walter said, suddenly, his eyes getting distant. Rachel. She lives out in California, works for some tech company. We'd go to breakfast at that diner on Main Street. She always got the blueberry pancakes. My mum had mentioned that Walter didn't have any kids. She'd talked to the realtor when she saw the house was sold. That sounds nice, I said carefully. She's a good kid, smart, got her mother's eyes. He smiled, lost in the memory. We talk about everything, her job, her boyfriend, whether she was ever going to give me grandkids. He trailed off, and his smile faded. His face went confused, almost scared. No, he said quietly. That's not right. I don't have a daughter. Why did I say that? Mr. Crane, I don't have a daughter, he repeated, firmer now. My wife and I never had children. She couldn't. We tried for years, but it never happened. He looked at me, and I could see genuine fear in his eyes. So why can I remember Rachel? Why can I see her face? Why do I remember her laughing at some joke I told, and the way she'd hug me goodbye? I didn't know what to say. Walter turned and walked back into his house without another word. I stood there in my driveway, feeling cold despite the summer heat. This wasn't just dementia. Dementia made you forget things, not remember things that never existed. And Walter seemed aware that these memories didn't make sense. That made it worse somehow. I went inside and locked the door, even though I never locked it during the day. I tried to avoid Walter after that. I felt bad about it, but the whole situation freaked me out. There was something wrong with him, something I didn't understand, and I didn't want to get pulled into it. But 3 days later, at almost 11 at night, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Walter standing there. He looked terrible, hair messier than usual, shirt untucked, eyes wide and desperate. I opened the door. Mr. Crane, are you okay? You have to remember, he said, grabbing my shoulders. His grip was surprisingly strong. Please tell me you remember. Remember what? I don't. The second moon. The way things used to be. I can't be the only one. I can't be. Mr. Crane, you need to calm down. I'm not crazy, his voice cracked. I know what I remember. The moon was real. Rachel was real. My whole other life was real. But it's fading. Every day it gets harder to remember. And I'm scared that soon it'll be gone completely and I'll be like everyone else. Let me call someone to help you. No, He let go of me, stepping back. No doctors. They'll just say I'm sick. They'll put me somewhere. He pulled something from his pocket, a photograph, old and worn. Look, he said, shoving it toward me. The photo showed Walter, maybe 20 years younger, standing with his arm around a woman and a young girl. They were all smiling, standing in front of what looked like the Grand Canyon. That's my wife Helen and daughter Rachel, Walter said. See? She's real. Your wife's name was Margaret, I said gently, remembering what my mom had told me. Right? Walter's hand started shaking. He pulled out another photo. This one was a funeral card. Margaret Crane, it said. Beloved wife. Her name was Margaret, he whispered. We were married for 40 years. No children. He held both pictures, one in each hand, staring at them. But I remember Helen too. I remember marrying her. I remember Rachel being born. I remember both of them. How can I remember both? Then he started crying. This old man just broke down right there on my doorstep, tears running down his face. I don't know what's real anymore, he sobbed. I didn't know what to do. I ended up just standing there, feeling helpless, until Walter finally pulled himself together. He wiped his eyes and put the photos back in his pocket. I'm sorry, he said. I shouldn't have bothered you. He went back to his house, and I closed the door. I didn't sleep that night, just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Around 4 a.m, I got up and opened my laptop again. I searched for remembering things that didn't happen. Got results about false memories, confabulation, all sorts of psychological terms. Then I tried Mandela effect. That was when large groups of people remembered something differently than how it actually was, like people swearing Curious George had a tail when he never did. I found some forums, lots of people arguing about whether Berenstain Bears was spelled with an A or an E, whether Looney Tunes was tunes or tunes. Most of it seemed like people just misremembering stuff. But then I found a smaller thread, buried deep in one of the forums. Does anyone else remember the second moon? My blood went cold. There was only about a dozen replies, most of them telling the original poster they were crazy. But 3 people said yes. They remembered it too. A small greenish moon that used to appear at night. One person said it disappeared in 2009. Another said 2011. The third said they couldn't remember exactly when, but it was sometime in the mid-2000s. All 3 described it almost exactly the way Walter had. I closed my laptop and didn't open it again for the rest of the night. The next morning, I woke up with a weird feeling, like I'd forgotten something important. I lay there trying to figure out what it was. Did I have an appointment? Was I supposed to call someone? No, it was something else. I had a memory of playing video games with my younger brother. We were in our shared bedroom, arguing over whose turn it was to play Mario Kart. I could see his face so clearly, dark hair like mine, big grin, the way he'd always pick Yoshi as his character. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. I didn't have a brother. I'd never had a brother. I was an only child. But the memory was so vivid. I could remember specific things. The smell of the popcorn we'd made, the pattern of the blanket on his bed, his laugh when he'd beat me at the game. I shook my head hard, like I could physically dislodge the thought. just my imagination. I was stressed from everything with Walter. My brain was just making stuff up. I got dressed and went downstairs, trying to focus on normal things. Making breakfast, checking my phone. Anything to distract myself from the fake memory of a brother I'd never had. But it kept coming back. All day, I'd catch myself thinking about him, remembering things we'd done together, a trip to the beach, building a fort in the woods behind our house, him crying when he broke his arm falling off his bike. None of it was real. None of it had happened. By late afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to check on Walter. I knocked on his door. No answer. "Mr. Crane," I called. "It's Brian." Still nothing. I tried the doorknob. Unlocked. I went inside, calling his name. The house was dark, curtains all drawn. It smelled musty, like no one had opened a window in days. I found him in the living room. He was sitting in an armchair, surrounded by photographs. They covered the coffee table, the floor, the couch, dozens of them. And next to them were notebooks, pages and pages filled with handwriting. "Mr. Crane?" He looked up at me slowly. His eyes were red, like he'd been crying or hadn't slept in days. "I'm trying to write it all down," he said quietly. "Both versions. Everything I remember." I picked up one of the notebooks. The left page described Walter's life with Margaret, their wedding, their jobs, their friends. On the right page was his life with Helen and Rachel, completely different, but just as detailed. "I thought if I wrote it down, I could figure out which one was real," Walter said. "But they both feel real. They're both real to me." "Mr. Crane, I think you need help." "It's spreading," he interrupted. "What?" He stood up, and I noticed how thin he'd gotten, like he hadn't been eating. "The memories, they're fading from me. Every day, they get a little less clear. The second moon is just a blur now. I can barely remember what Rachel's face looked like." He grabbed my hand. His skin was cold. "But I can feel it spreading, like it has to go somewhere, like it needs someone to hold onto it. I don't understand." "You're starting to remember, aren't you?" His eyes searched mine. "Things that didn't happen. People who don't exist." My mouth went dry. "How did you—" "Because that's what happened to me 15 years ago. My neighbor at the time, old Mr. Henderson. He started talking about things that didn't make sense, about a world that was different. And then I started remembering too, and he forgot. That's not possible." "I wished it wasn't," Walter said. "I've been carrying these memories for 15 years, remembering a whole other world, but now they're leaving me going to you. That's insane." "Is it?" He let go of my hand. "Tell me about your brother." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "I don't have a brother." "But you remember one, don't you?" I wanted to lie, but I couldn't. "Yeah, I remember one." Walter nodded slowly. "I'm sorry. I think I gave it to you. Just by being near you, by talking to you. I didn't mean to." He sat back down in his chair, suddenly looking exhausted. "Soon I'll forget everything. The second moon, Helen, Rachel, all of it. I'll just remember this world, the normal world, and you'll be the one who remembers the other one." "I don't want it," I said, my voice shaking. "Neither did I," Walter said softly. but someone has to. Otherwise, it all disappears forever. I didn't sleep at all that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I had memories that weren't mine. A birthday party where I turned 7. But the house in the memory wasn't my house. The people weren't my family. A teacher named Mrs. Roberts who taught my 5th grade class. Except I'd had Mr. Chen in 5th grade. I could look it up in my old yearbook. A best friend named Owen, who I'd known since kindergarten. We'd done everything together. Played on the same Little League team. Had sleepovers every weekend. He'd moved to Oregon after 8th grade, and I'd cried for days. But Owen didn't exist. I'd never had a friend named Owen, except I could remember his face perfectly, the gap between his front teeth, the way his hair stuck up in the back, his collection of baseball cards that he kept in a shoebox under his bed. By morning, I had a splitting headache. I stumbled downstairs and made coffee, trying to focus on what was real. My house, my kitchen, my coffee maker. But then I'd remember making coffee in a different kitchen, one with blue counters instead of grey ones, in a different house, somewhere else in town. I pulled out my phone and called Emma. "Hey," she said, "you sound terrible. I need to ask you something." My voice came out strange, tight. "Do you remember me ever mentioning a friend named Owen?" "Owen? No, I don't think so." "Why? What about, did I ever tell you I had a brother?" "Brian, you're an only child. Are you feeling okay?" "No," I said honestly. "No, I'm not." "What's wrong?" I wanted to tell her. About Walter, about the memories, about everything. But how could I explain it without sounding completely crazy? "Nothing. I'm just tired. Haven't been sleeping well." "You sure?" "Yeah. I'll call you later." I hung up before she could ask more questions. The rest of the day was a blur. I kept having more memories. A family vacation to Yellowstone that never happened. A car accident when I was 16 that put me in the hospital for a week. A whole year of my life that was completely different from what actually occurred. And the worst part was, these fake memories felt more real than my actual memories. More vivid, more detailed. I started writing them down, even though I'd told myself I wouldn't. Couldn't help it. Had to get them out of my head somehow. That night, I sat on my front porch, staring up at the sky. The moon was out. Just one moon. Normal and white, and exactly where it should be. But I could see where the second one used to be. Could picture it rising slowly, greenish and beautiful, about 30 degrees to the left of the regular moon. It had been so pretty. Wait, no. I'd never seen it. Walter had seen it, not me. Except I had seen it. I remembered it. Remembered walking outside on autumn nights just to watch both moons rise. Remembered my dad pointing it out to me when I was a kid, telling me how lucky we were to live in a time when Earth had 2 moons. But that never happened. My dad never said that. There was never a second moon. I put my head in my hands and tried not to cry. Walter came over 3 days later. He looked completely different, healthier, calmer, like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. "How are you doing, Brian?" he asked, sitting down in the other chair. "Not great," I admitted. I figured. He was quiet for a moment. I don't remember the second moon anymore. I looked at him. What? It's gone. The memory. I know I used to remember it, but now it's just gone. Like it was never there. He smiled, but it was sad. Actually feels kind of nice. Not carrying that around anymore. But you told me about it, about Rachel, about your other life. I know I did, and I remember telling you, but the actual memories are gone. I can remember that I remembered, if that makes sense, but the details are gone. You seem happy about it. I am, he said honestly. I've spent 15 years being haunted by things that no one else could see, things I couldn't prove existed. It was exhausting, lonely. Now I'm just normal. He looked at me closely. But you're not normal anymore, are you? I shook my head. What are you remembering? Everything, I whispered. A brother I never had, friends who don't exist, a whole different version of my life. The second moon. I looked up at the sky even though it was daytime. I can see it so clearly, green and small and perfect. I'm sorry, Walter said, and he sounded like he meant it. I didn't know it would happen like this, didn't know it would transfer to you. What is it? What's happening to me? Walter leaned back in his chair. I've had 15 years to think about it, and honestly, I don't know. But here's what I think. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I think something changed. About 15 years ago, something about the world changed. Maybe the timeline shifted. Maybe reality rewrote itself. I don't know. But a few people remember the old world, the way things used to be. That's impossible. Is it? You're remembering it now. But why? Why would I remember things that didn't happen? Because they did happen, Walter said softly. Just not in this version of the world. In another version, you had a brother. You had a friend named Owen. Earth had 2 moons. All of that was real. It just isn't real anymore. That doesn't make any sense. No, it doesn't. But it's the only explanation I've got. I felt sick. And the memories need someone to hold on to them, Walter continued. Like they're alive somehow. They can't exist without someone remembering them. So they pass from person to person. Mr. Henderson had them before me. Now I've passed them to you. How long? I asked. How long until they fade from me too? For me, it was 15 years. But I don't know if it's always the same. Could be more, could be less. And when they fade from me, they'll go to someone else? Walter nodded slowly. I think so. That's how it seems to work. I thought about what that meant, carrying these memories for years, remembering a world no one else could see, going slowly crazy from the weight of it, and then eventually passing it to someone else, condemning them to the same thing. I don't want this, I said. I know, Walter said. Neither did I. But I don't think we get to choose. He stood up to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I held on to those memories as long as I could, tried to honor them, the people I remembered who might not exist anymore, the world that was. I think that's all we can do. Did it help? Sometimes, he said. Sometimes it just made it worse. He went back to his house, leaving me alone with my stolen memories. 3 weeks have passed since Walter told me the truth. My parents came back from Italy yesterday. They keep asking me if I'm okay, saying I seem different. I tell them I'm fine, just tired from being alone all summer. I haven't told Emma, haven't told anyone. What would I even say? The memories are completely clear now, clearer than my real memories. I remember my brother's name, Daniel. We called him Danny. He was 2 years younger than me. He died in a car accident when I was 15. Drunk driver ran a red light. I remember his funeral, the way my mum sobbed, the way my dad couldn't speak at all, just stood there silent and broken. I remember grieving for him, missing him every day. But none of it happened. Danny never existed. My parents never lost a son. I remember the second moon rising every night. Remember the way people would gather in parks in autumn to watch both moons together. Remember feeling sad when it disappeared, like everyone had lost something beautiful. But ask anyone else, and they'll look at you like you're crazy. I've stopped fighting it, stopped trying to convince myself these memories aren't real. They are real, just not here, not anymore. Last night, I sat on my porch and looked up at the sky. The single moon was out, bright and white. I could still see where the second one used to be. Still picture it there, green and lovely, moving slowly across the night. I'm starting to understand what Walter meant about honoring the memories. Someone needs to remember the world that was, even if no one believes them, even if it drives them a little crazy. I don't know how long I'll carry these memories. Could be 15 years, like Walter. Could be more, could be less. But I know what comes at the end. I'll forget. The memories will fade, replaced by this current reality, and they'll need somewhere else to go. This morning, I noticed a new family moving in down the street. Young couple with a teenage daughter. She looks about my age. I watched them unpack their car, carrying boxes into the house. The daughter was wearing a college sweatshirt. Same school I go to. I haven't talked to them yet, but I know I will. Can't help it. That's how it works, I think. The memories find someone, draw them close, and then they spread. I don't want to do it to her. Don't want to burden someone else with this, but I don't think I'll be able to stop myself. Last night, I dreamed about the second moon. It was green and small and perfect, hanging in the autumn sky. When I woke up, I couldn't remember if it was a dream or a memory. Maybe soon I won't remember at all. Maybe that would be better. But I don't think I get to choose. I saw the girl from down the street this morning. She was jogging past my house. She waved, I waved back. And I felt it. That pull, that need to talk to someone, to share what I remember, to make sure these memories don't die with me. She'll jog past again tomorrow. I know she will. And maybe I'll say hello, just a friendly neighbor welcoming someone new to town. That's how it starts. That's how it always starts. I look up at the sky, and I see both moons there. One real, one that only I can see. And I know exactly what's coming. I'm powerless to stop it.